Hello, and welcome to Catholicism in the Car. My name is Parker Zerba. All right. I've been listening to some audio recordings that I made of Blessed John Duns Scotus's Ordinatio. So I listened to his prologue, and I also listened to his first distinction that he makes. In total, he has 48 distinctions in this Ordinatio. So it goes through 48 various distinctive questions, and then for a lot of these distinctions, these 48 distinctions, there's various questions under each distinction. So, and then he gives answers to each of those, and a lot of them he gives answers from kind of what various philosophers have said about things, and then he gives his own answer as to the question. So anyway, I listened through the prologue, and I've been listening to them on 2 times speed. The way that I make these is there's a PDF online, open source document of Duns Scotus's Ordinatio. It's like almost 800 pages long, this PDF. And what I've done is basically turn the PDF into a Word document and then copy and pasted the Word document into a reader that will transfer those words into an MP3 file. So, and I've done it basically just each distinction at a time. So I've been slowly working my way through it. I did the prologue all in one big MP3 file, so it's like 6 hours long. That's just the prologue. So yeah, I've kind of felt like my brain has been going through a car wash almost. Like just the amount of information being flooded into my head. And, most of this I'm working, or I'm last night I was mowing when I listened to his prologue. We have a pretty big yard, so it takes us a while to mow the lawn. And listening to it on 2 times speed, so it took me a little under 3 hours to listen to the thing. And it's like, just going through my brain's going through a car wash. It feels like, I'm not getting a whole ton of it, but little bits here and there. Sometimes it feels like, I'm going through a dense forest while I'm listening to this thing, and then the forest will break, and there'll be like a little meadow or an oasis in the desert where, like, okay, I understand about 5 minutes of this, and then it's like, all right, we're going back into this dense forest. It's pretty intense. It's intense stuff. Yeah, but really good. It's like being it's like a trial by fire kind of into Duns Scotus's thought, into this primary source of his. There aren't a whole lot of primary sources for Duns Scotus in English. There's one on his treatise, God is First Principle, and then there's a couple of compiled works. There's one on his philosophical writings that was done, I think it was in the mid 20th century. You can get you have to buy the PDF of that one. But anyway, I've transferred a lot of it into audio files so that I can listen to it while I'm working or whatnot. It has been quite the journey. Oh my goodness. I haven't been able to find any sort of PDF files really of Bonaventure's work. The only one is his Itinerarium, The Journey of the Mind into God. That is in a PDF form, and then there's a few articles about Bonaventure that are in PDF form, but I haven't been able to get them in PDF form, and thus I haven't been able to get them in MP3 form either. So, I've read a lot of Bonaventure's works at this point, not all of them, but particularly the Breviloquium, which is basically his version of the Summa Theologica, although it's much, much shorter. It's only about 300 or so pages. And it's basically a systematic look through. It's kind of like a catechism for him. And I've read it twice now, and I'm going back through a third time, really taking really in-depth notes so that maybe I can teach a course on it. I mean, not that I have the qualifications for that, but I think once you read something enough, you can become fairly adept in it, and if you take enough notes. So at least to offer some YouTube reflections on these things that I could also make into audio for the podcast. I've been thinking about doing that for the Breviloquium. I've been slowly working through it. But Duns Scotus's work is, man, it's like I don't know, 5 to 10 times harder to get through than Bonaventure. Bonaventure is much, much easier to read. Duns Scotus is, as I said, he's like a jungle trying to make it through this stuff. So anyway, I hope that helps. It may not be, this podcast may not have been very interesting for a lot of people, but if you're thinking about getting into reading Duns Scotus, I would say do it. Although I did a lot of prep for this. I went through the Catholic University of America for their doctoral students. They have basically a list, and this is online, you can find it, a list of readings that they have their doctoral students do. And I basically went through all that from Aristotle and then all the way down to Duns Scotus, trying to get an overview of the various thinkers up to his time. And then now I'm kind of taking a deep dive into Duns Scotus. They also have it for everybody after Duns Scotus up until like the 1960s. So that might be a really good resource for people to find. Again, it was a Catholic University of America philosophy program, their doctoral program for that. They have a PDF of a whole bunch of readings that you can kind of go through. And there it kind of gives you like the nuggets of these various thinkers, the main points of these various thinkers. And I thought that was really helpful to kind of go through that. And then now that I finally made it up to Duns Scotus, it's like, all right, let's dive deep. And it's been really good. It's been really, really good. So I'm definitely going to have to listen to this stuff multiple times. And then if I ever get time to sit down and read it, actually just read it, I will. But actually for me, listening to things initially really helps, because when I read, I easily get distracted, and unless I have a good idea of what the topic is already about before I go into it, a lot of times I'll just get stuck in reading loops. Like Bonaventure's stuff, St. Bonaventure's stuff, I've had a pretty good understanding of it, so reading through it goes a lot faster. But if I was to just sit down without any previous work done, to just sit down and read Duns Scotus's stuff, man, I would probably just be swimming. So it's hard enough just listening to the audio. But anyway, that's kind of how my brain works. What I found helpful. I mean, I also just don't have a lot of time. I'm working full time. I do this podcast part time and the YouTube channel part time, and then I do a lot of research on the side as well, just because I love it, and it helps aid the podcast and the YouTube. But mainly just because I love it. So I do a lot of reading and research and things like that into this stuff. So I don't have a whole ton of time to just sit down and read often. Most of my reading time is spent on the things that I can't get audio formats of, like Bonaventure's work. Right now I've been reading a lot of that. So, and then other ones that I really want to deep dive into. I did a lot of reading of Aristotle's stuff, a lot of reading of Plato's stuff, but a lot of the thinkers in between, like Lucretius, Epictetus, the Neoplatonists, a lot of Augustine's stuff. I mean, I read the Confessions. I've read a lot of the City of God, not all of it. It's a long work. But a lot of those other things I kind of just did through audio format, just so I could get an introduction to them, an overview of their thought, basically, from the primary sources. I don't like to go to secondary sources if I don't have to. So anyway, all right. Hope that helps everybody. Hopefully, if you're interested, go use that PDF on the Catholic University of America website. You can also find the Duns Scotus's Ordinatio online. If you just look up John Duns Scotus Ordinatio PDF in Google, it'll pop up. It's pretty easy to find. And then the Franciscan Archive also has a lot of other stuff on both John Duns Scotus and Bonaventure, although a lot of the links are broken. But you can go on there, franciscanarchive.org, I think is what it is, and find a lot of good stuff. Although you use it for your own personal study. Don't redistribute any of this stuff, obviously. I'm not going to be giving out these PDFs that I have or these audio files that I have. I'm not going to be giving them out. Of course, I'm not going to be selling. So because this is other people's work that they've spent a lot of time and money into perfecting, and I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me. So anyway, all right. Thanks, guys. Oh, real quick, please feel free to subscribe to any of my podcasts on any of the podcast players. Find me on YouTube. Please subscribe. Like me on Facebook, like the Catholicism Car channel on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all there. Catholicism Car. And then I also have a Patreon account if you wish to support what I do at this podcast and this YouTube channel. And you can also support us on Anchor.fm. There's a support button there you click on. I also have links to all this on my website. website's support page at www.catholicisminthecar.com.